Today, I want to take the time to reflect about some basic routines, some basic perspectives that I have applied along the way, some basic knowledge, things that I have learned and that I have completely turned into my new way of thinking, the ways in which I've changed my mind that have become so natural over the course of the last few years that sometimes I even forget how far I have come and how difficult it can be actually to perceive the world in a certain way, to take a step back from our emotions, to redirect our thoughts, our way of experiencing reality. But it's a very interesting thing. If you have seen my last video, I have literally been feeling like I am in heaven. I have been feeling like I'm in nirvana, like life is smiling at me, like I finally reached a certain peak of self-control, happiness, mastery of the mind, mastery of emotions in a way that nothing, no weapon formed against me can prosper, can bring me down. No one can bring down my mood except me, myself, and I, because I feel like on this journey, it has been all about taking back control of our perspective of the world, taking back control of our action, of our thoughts, of our emotions, not in a way that we are completely control freaks, but that we realize the power that we hold in this reality and are not destroyable, or that nothing outside of us can manipulate us or dictate our reality or our experience of life for us. That is really what we've been focusing on over the past few years. And I do not realize sometimes, and I've been watching a series actually, and I saw so much manipulation and so much gaslighting, and I was like, wow, a few years ago, something like this, a conversation like this, or being approached by a manipulator, a narcissist, or someone that can just trigger certain emotional reactions out of you in such a way would have absolutely crushed me, and I would not have been able to deal with that. But today, I can laugh at it. I can see it clearly from the start. I don't doubt myself like I used to in the past, and it's a very liberating feeling. And so today I actually want to take the time to talk about the subject again, but from a new point of view, new perspectives, from the person I am today. I've definitely covered this in previous episodes, but I specifically want to talk about emotional detachment and why I feel that it's so important and how it has absolutely changed my life. It has absolutely changed my experience of the world. It has absolutely changed my work, my relationships, my mood, and just everything in the best possible way. So let's get into it. I think lately I've been really deeply thinking about morality. Not lately, I think over the past years especially, I've been really wondering what is right, what is wrong, what is the good side, when am I doing good, how can I act in a way that is morally right, uncovering evil in the world, and just doing things in a way that will prevent emotional hurt or hurting other people or getting certain feelings in due time that might destroy us. You know, sometimes we just take decisions and after a while we realize maybe we did not take the right decisions, or we have negative consequences, or consequences that we deem negative just because we experience negative feelings associated to whatever consequences we endure. It can actually turn us into, and that happened to me, very obsessive, turn into an obsessive way of trying to navigate life, really avoiding making mistakes, avoiding taking the wrong steps, socio and psychoanalyzing every single relationship, all the people that we meet, and trying to put everything and everyone and every action, every thought, every person that we meet in this box of good or bad. And I know sometimes that's a way to get around life. It's very understandable that when you go through a very deep hurt that you want to avoid ever getting back to that place ever again. But what you will do is also prevent yourself from living, constantly walking on eggshells and constantly pouring so much energy into deciphering communication, actions, and sometimes we might also put people in boxes in boxes that they actually are not necessarily supposed to be in. And the thing is, if you put everything in a box of good and bad, you are also constantly juggling the realm of being a good or a bad person. And that is actually very exhausting, having to constantly prove to yourself, prove to others, prove to the world that you have good intentions, that you are a good human being. I would absolutely not recommend. It takes so much energy. And at the end of the day, we will always find ourselves in a position where we do something bad. Or if you think you can avoid ever being wrong or ever doing something wrong in the eyes of others, of yourselves, you are fooling yourself. And this mentality can actually do way more hurt than good, not only to others, but also to yourself. So if you're in this place, it can be very exhausting. But I understand that sometimes this comes from a place where we want to protect our heart. We want to avoid making the mistakes that we did in the past. But it is really actually in the long term blocking ourselves from going to the places that we are meant to be. Also, maybe becoming the most independent, thriving, highest version of ourselves in the ways that we imagine in our dreams. We are going to have to make mistakes. We're going to have to be wrong. We're going to have to understand the world in a different way. If you want to go to certain places, and I've been thinking about this so much when you look at the biggest artists or at, just people that made it very big in their dream, living their dream life. A lot of the times they seem to vary from a audience perspective. They seem very disconnected from what we deem morally right, or fighting moral battles, or very politically detached. And we can demonize that. We can have critique on that. We can be mad at certain people for example, the richest people in the world. We can get mad at them for never speaking up, for not choosing a side in certain arguments. And definitely, this is a whole debate. We can argue about this. I'm sure there is opinions, arguments on both sides. And I have learned and I have understood and seen that there's always a truth on both sides. But I think personally, what I have seen in my life is that if you want to get to a certain place of success, if you want to be in a certain position where you are allowed to be yourself, freely detaching yourself from what other people think and not having to put yourself in a box and actually live a life so free that you live happily, you have to have a certain mindset. You have to have a certain way of thinking. You have to become a certain version of yourself. And that version often requires detaching from morality and understanding that nothing is good or bad, or fighting the urge to put things in a box of good or bad. I'm not saying that good and bad do not exist. I'm not saying that some things aren't bad and some things aren't good, because that also would not be correct. But it is learning to detach, right? Detach from a need to put everything in a box. Because if you do not want to be put in a box, you will have to be able to also not put yourself in a box, to let go of the ways in which society will perceive you or how you perceive society. You have to become the way of living that you want to be, that you want to get to. You have to think in a way that the people think, in the life that you want to lead. And that is a shift of paradigm that we've been working for, right? It's letting go of the structures, of the ways in which our minds are programmed to live, to understand reality. And yes, we are all programmed in a certain way within a certain paradigm. But I feel like it's a very low frequency. It's the life where you just live this very normal life and you don't see the world. It's very close-minded. You're already being put in a box, and it's a good life for some people. You don't have to think a lot. You don't have to feel very comfortable. It's a life that most people walk. But a lot of us crave a different lifestyle. A lot of us crave more in this world. But we have to understand to get to that life that we want to go, we have to completely think differently, outside the box. No, there is no box. And that internal struggle between your old way of thinking, between the paradigms that are pushing you to think and to categorize the world and your experiences and the way you view everything and people and your relationships in the ways that we are taught, that is one of the biggest struggles and the biggest battles I have been fighting, I have experienced. It's all is in the mind. Everything is in the mind. And we say that and we hear that a lot, but do we actually realize? I know that once people actually get to do the work, you realize how crazy it is. And maybe we make fun of people that are constantly talking about, oh, it's all in the mind, everything is spiritual. But at the end of the day, though, that is what it is. If life is the matrix, the system breaks as soon as you decide that the rules and the codes are written differently. And I've said this in one of my previous videos. We may physically be in the same space, but we are having a complete different view of reality. And at the lower frequency, people are going to try to tell you that your way of living is wrong and their way of living is right for these and these and these and these and these reasons. But it is that urge to constantly try to figure out what is good, what is bad, who is doing best, who is doing better, worse, what is right, what is wrong. That is actually sometimes what is keeping us stuck in a certain way of living, because we are afraid to do the wrong thing, to say the wrong thing, to go to the wrong place, to be the wrong place in the eyes of certain people, in the eyes of the people that we do not care about in the first place, in the eyes of the people that are criticizing us in the first place. And all the people that we look up to, usually, they don't care because they already have that mindset of, I know I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to make mistakes, but at least I do what I want to do and I'm free and I love the life that I'm living and I'm happy doing this. That is the mindset necessary. And therefore, we have to practice. Therefore, I believe we have to practice emotional detachment. And it's something that grows. It's something that grows in layers. It's a process like everything. It's a muscle that we can work out until one day you wake up and you're just like, ain't nothing can stop me. Ain't no one can hold me back. This is exactly where I want to be. And I am completely free in thought, in mind, in emotions, and spirit. My nervous system is my friend. I don't have to stress because it's all in my hands at the end of the day. Emotional detachment has really allowed me to be open to flexibility, be open to change, and realize that everything is way more nuanced. And in practicality, the way that it applies sometimes is that when you are faced with a situation or when you are faced with something, a conversation, a person, events, or you see something, you experience something that would bring up certain emotions or it triggers something within you. It is learning to first allowing your rationality to process whatever is happening before you react to that thing. And I think is learning to be the observer of our thoughts. So it's actually switching your position mentally of who you are in this game of life. Understanding that not everything is just happening to you, right? But that you are part of the way in which you perceive what is happening to you. Just realizing that you are the one observing what is happening to you and that you are not, how do you say? It's like, imagine something is being said to you and it makes you feel very sad. It's realizing that you are not the sadness. The sadness is something that is coming through you that you are experiencing, but it will also pass. But allowing yourself to detach your self-concept from whatever you are feeling at that moment allows you also to put things in perspective and to understand that it is not that deep. It is just a feeling and it will fleet over time. And this allows us to also protect relationships, make decisions in a very thought through manner, And also to realize that when you are the observer, and sometimes you can feel things, but that don't mean that you're going to feel them in a next moment, it makes you realize over time, and it's something that deeply ingrains in your conceptualization of reality over time, is that everything is in constant fluctuation. Everything changes. People change. We change. So it puts us in this position sometimes where we have to question and we have to realize that the ideas we have of certain outcomes, that nothing is fixed. And it's the detachment from the way things are going to play out. It's the detachment of outcomes that is making life so much better. I think we used to say that, right? Reduce your expectations to zero, because the less expectations you have, the happier you're going to be. It is understanding that things can happen, but not necessarily trying to push them a certain way, and giving people the freedom to be as they are, giving yourself the freedom to change and just to navigate life through the different ways that you're feeling, and understanding that in different places, spaces, and with different people, different things are, or the same things are going to feel differently, but it is okay to feel those ways, because whatever you feel is not you. It's just something that you are feeling. Am I speaking Chinese to you right now? I mean, nothing against Chinese, but here it's something we say in ways to say, like, am I understandable? I don't know. Sorry, I didn't. Sometimes I forget that this is very international. So do you understand what I'm saying? Or is this completely random, understandable? I think that it's very beautiful to understand that at the end of the day, morality is actually bringing us down. And I know this might be hard to conceptualize, and this is something that I have struggled with over a long time, because I'm not saying that morality doesn't exist and that there's no wrong or right. That's absolutely not what I'm saying, but I will need more time and a whole debate for this conversation to be fully explored. But I think in our personal journeys, especially for my artistic people, it's going to be very important for ourselves and for our own self-expression. I think that being able and feeling free to express yourself fully as you are without shame is one of the highest, most liberating and inspiring things you can do for others. And at one point, it might seem like a bad thing. There's going to be criticized, there's going to be crucified for some things, but we always say that we want people to be real and be yourself and don't try to be normal, don't try to fit in. But the truth of this society and of this world is still that we do judge people for being themselves. We want people to be themselves and to express themselves as long as we agree with what they say, as long as we think that it's okay and acceptable. And I'm not saying that some things shouldn't be acceptable, but that is exactly what the point is. This is not about being right. This is not about being wrong. This is not about who is good, who is bad. This is about finding the strength, the courage, the confidence, and changing your mind, taking back control of your mind in a way that no matter what happens, you feel free. No matter how people react to you, you don't necessarily internalize their reactions, but you know that you are in control of your mind. And emotions are something that happen through you, that you can do something, what you can express, you can create, you can learn something from every emotion. Every emotion is like a mirror to something within ourselves. All these videos come from emotions. It's me allowing myself to sit with the emotion and wonder, what is this emotion telling me? What am I learning about myself? And like they said in the ancient times, know thyself, because I feel like the key to life, the key to living the best life you possibly can is getting to know yourself, the way you operate, because self-control and self-mastery is true freedom. And I feel like it does have positive effects onto people. A lot of people will not always understand, but you also allow other people's the freedom to be themselves, you know? And I feel like loving people that are able to be themselves through their high and their bad, loving people, whether we deem them morally right or wrong, through their lows and their highs, is the highest form of love that we can experience as human beings. I'm not talking about children and stuff like that. I don't have children, but you know what I mean, right? That is so powerful. And I think everything for me is about coming back to love and acceptance, no matter how effed up life can get, no matter how difficult some feelings are, and no matter how difficult some people are to love. I think that the most beautiful thing created, and the thing that actually gives life, and the reason that we're all here, is love. And the reason that we get through is love. So that is, for me, one of the most beautiful things to praise, to embrace, to want, to believe in, even though it is very hard, as the world can be very dark, dark, dark. But anyways, that was a little conversation about emotional detachment. I hope you got some beautiful insights out of it. Thank you so much for being here. And feel free to suggest any type of video, any type of topic. I feel like it's time to revisit some things that we have already discussed, but in a matter that actually involves new insights and the new person that I am, which is a very important part of the whole process. Thank you very much. I will hopefully see you in the next video, and feel free to like and subscribe. Okay, see you guys. Bye.